What's up, everyone? It's Bones here. In a little bit under 2 weeks, we'll finally be getting the Red Dragon Archfiend structure deck that brings support to make a seemingly modern strategy. With space to play going second cards, we can make some pretty sizable boards as well. But first, if you're a fan of in-depth combo videos, new set coverage, and occasional fun stuff that we like to do on the channel, such as quarterly tier lists and things of that nature, then click on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons and allow your soul to resonate with them, as Red Dragon Archfiend guides us on the path of the Crimson King. And the first card that we have here is Crimson Gaia. It's a continuous spell card that reads, during your main phase, you can add one Red Dragon Archfiend or one card that mentions it from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except Crimson Gaia. When your Red Dragon Archfiend declares an attack, you can change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. If a monster on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one Red Dragon Archfiend from your graveyard. You can only use each effect of Crimson Gaia once per turn, and this is a really nice card because of what it enables for this archetype, as we're going to start here by activating it, and then we can use its search effect in order to net us our search for the next new card, and this one is the Soul Resonator, a level 3 fire type Fiend Tuner, and it reads, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one level 4 or lower Fiend monster from your deck to your hand, except Soul Resonator. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Dark Synchro monsters. If a card you control would be destroyed by card effect while you control Red Dragon Archfiend or a Synchro monster that mentions it, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You can only use each effect of Soul Resonator once per turn. And this is a really nice card because not only does it combo well with the Crimson Gaia, but you also have the additional ability to protect your board, while also netting you that extra search, of course, as we're going to normal summon it in order to get that search. And now, what's up, everyone? It's Bones here, or more specifically, we're getting ourselves Bone Archfiend, and this is a new level 4 Fiend monster that reads, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send one other card from your hand or field to the graveyard, special summon this card. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Dark Dragon Synchro monsters, so you can kind of notice a recurring theme here with the locking into Dark Synchro monsters, or in this case, Dark Synchro Dragon monster, and you can target one face-up monster you control, send one Fiend Tuner from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, increase or decrease the targeted monster's level by 1. You can only use each effect of Bone Archfiend once per turn, and this is a really nice card because it allows you to combo with the Crimson Gaia, and it allows you to turn the Crimson Gaia into a one-card combo that gets you into a pretty linear setup that this deck aims to do that I'll go over momentarily. So we're going to use the effect of the Bone now in order to send off the Crimson Resonator, which is pretty important, and I'll talk about why shortly. But as we change the Soul Resonator to level 2, we'll now be able to Synchro 6 into the Red Rising Dragon. And because we sent the Crimson Resonator off of the Bone Archfiend, we now have the ability to revive it off of the Red Rising Dragon. So we're going to use the effect of the Red Rising Dragon, which is important to note. It does take one Fiend Tuner plus one non-tuner monster, so you just can't shove Assault Synchron and stuff like that in here. As when this card is Synchro summoned, you can target one Resonator monster in your graveyard, special summon it, which is exactly what we're going to do. It doesn't negate the effect, which allows us to use the effect of the Crimson Resonator, and this will give us 2 more bodies on board, as you'll also notice that we must only control one Dark Synchro monster or one Dark Dragon Synchro monster in order to use this effect, so that's also important to note. And also another pretty nice thing about this combo slash deck, where you're able to get into your one Synchro monster by using your resources and then either bring this out or normal summon it, or even if you special summoned it in the beginning of the turn off of its own effect, where if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand and then wait until this moment to use its effect. So we'll now special summon out the Vision Resonator along with the Synchron Resonator off of the Crimson Resonator, and the Vision Resonator is yet another new card that reads, if a level 5 or higher dark monster is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Vision Resonator once per turn this way. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one spell trap that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Vision Resonator once per turn, and for so many reasons you can see why this is a very solid card, having the ability to be an extender plus a search, which can also, funny enough, get you into your Crimson Gaia, which can get you an add if you haven't used it yet, so that will definitely come up in future combos, as we'll now be able to go into our new Red Dragon Archfiend, the Scar Red Dragon Archfiend, as we'll also be able to use the effect of the Vision Resonator. But first, Scar Red Dragon Archfiend reads, it takes 1 tuner plus 1 non-tuner dark monsters. This card's name becomes Red Dragon Archfiend while on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is sent from the monster zone to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Red Dragon Archfiend from your extra deck, and this is treated as a synchro summon. Then, if this card was sent to the graveyard as a synchro material for a Dark Dragon synchro monster, you can destroy all your opponent's attack position monsters. You can only use this effect of Scar Red Dragon Archfiend once per turn. And this is a card that is sneaky good in my opinion, just because it allows the deck to go second a little bit, while also forcing your opponent to play around stuff by putting it in defense position where you can punish them if they don't. That said, you still do have to play through their disruptions, as we're now going to use the effect of the Vision Resonator in order to get ourselves the first new trap, Red Zone. And this is a continuous trap that reads, when your opponent activates a card or effect while you control Red Dragon Archfiend or a synchro monster that mentions it, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it. You can target one of your banished Dark Dragon synchro monsters, special summon it. You can only use each effect of Red Zone once per turn. And this is a pretty solid card. Something I would like to point out is that the special summon effect doesn't require the Red Dragon Archfiend to be on board, which I think is important to note because some people may get confused reading the first line of text where while you control Red Dragon Archfiend for that destruction effect. So we'll now be able to go into our Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane, and this is another important card in the strategy for many reasons, as you'll see as this video progresses, but we're going to use the effect of the Scar Red in order to bring ourselves the original Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, or the Red Dragon Archfiend, and then we'll go into the Abyss. Now, with the Synchron Resonator, we can actually get ourselves back the Vision Resonator, and because we haven't special summoned it off its own way, then we can use its effect in order to bring it out, as we're then going to use the effect of the Bane, which can then tribute off the Resonator in order to get back your Scar Red. Now, keep in mind, you can get back the original Red Dragon Archfiend if you want to play around something like Dark Ruler to be safer. I just want to show that you can bring back either one, as we're then going to be able to set our Red Zone, and we'll end our turn on that. Now, for the second combo, I would like to feature the 2 Searchers, Resonator Call along with the Crimson Gaia, and we're going to start this one with the Crimson Gaia, and we're going to do a lot of the same stuff that we did before. Going into your level 6 really is the Kit Kalos of the strategy, sort of, where you want to be able to go into that first before you give yourself the option of whatever board you want to go into. That said, you don't have as many options as tiers. Your extra deck is a little bit more compact since you're playing multiple copies of a lot of cards. So we're now going to bring out our Crimson Resonator, and I would like to point out, as you see, this is something that plays heavily into Droll, and the engine itself really plays into Droll, as Crimson Gaia gets you the add, and that gets you Soul Resonator. If you get Drolled right there and have nothing else in hand, then your turn is over, and that is important to point out. So we're now going to normal summon out the Soul Resonator, use its effect in order to get ourselves, what's up everyone, it's Bones here, and we'll use the effect of Bone Archfiend in order to special summon it out, sending the Gaia, as we'll then be able to send the Vision Resonator this time around. And I wanted to show the combos in this specific order, where we get the Crimson Gaia in the graveyard first off of the Bone Archfiend, and now we get the Vision Resonator, and this is something that you'll really be doing depending on what you have. As you saw before, we didn't have access into Crimson Resonator, so we prioritized it because we can get into the Vision Archfiend that way, or the Vision Resonator. So we'll now be able to use the effect of the Vision Resonator, which will get ourselves the Red Zone, and now we can go into our Red Rising Dragon, as we'll use the effect of Red Rising Dragon to bring back the Vision Resonator, and this is just another nice way to get yourself an extra search if you didn't get the search for the Red Zone off of the Vision Resonator for whatever reason previously. If you happen to go into your Red Rising Dragon, for example, with a completely different tuner, and you have the Vision Resonator in the graveyard, you would be able to get that search then. But we're now going to go into our Scar, as we'll use the effect of the Crimson Resonator to bring out another copy of Vision along with the Synchron Resonator. Then we can go into our Bane, as we'll use the effect of the Scar in order to bring out the original Red Dragon Archfiend, as then we can go into our Abyss. We'll use the effect of the Synchron Resonator to get back our Vision, as we'll then use the effect of the Bane in order to get back the original Red Dragon Archfiend. And now again, I want to talk about options here, because because, as you saw with the Synchron Resonator, I got back the Vision Resonator, and that's something that you don't need to do unless you happen to play around like a Bystial or something that banishes a card from your graveyard so that you can make what you're going to see next live. And we're going to special summon out the Crimson Resonator in order to go into our disc pattern. As said earlier, we don't have anything banished, so this is a disc pattern that's just a vanilla monster really with 3500 attack and defense, which is why I say if you want to get back your Soul Resonator, for example, in order to give yourself that follow-up, you definitely can, and then keep the Red Dragon Archfiend in order to set your red zone. But the reason why I wanted to show this is because you will be playing around Bystials and other potential stuff, especially while going second, and having the ability to make the disc pattern this way instead of just ending your board with Red Dragon Archfiend and follow-up is another option that this deck has. Now for this next combo, we have Crimson Resonator along with Bone Archfiend, and we're going to start this one by special summoning out the Crimson Resonator. We can then normal summon out the Bone Archfiend, as you have to remember we can actually use its effect from the graveyard, which is really nice, as we'll use the effect of Red Rising in order to bring back the Crimson, use the Crimson, and this will allow us to special summon out the Soul and the Synchron. So we'll now use the effect of the Soul in order to net ourselves a search, as we're going to get ourselves the Vision Resonator, and then we can go into our Scar, as we'll use the effect of the Bone in order to pitch the Vision Resonator from our hand so that we can special summon out the Bone, get the effect of the Vision, which will get us into the Crimson Gaia, and now we can use the effect of Bone, changing the level of Soul, sending another copy of Soul just for the extra protection. It really doesn't matter what you send there, but we're then going to go into the Bane, as we'll then be able to use the effect of the Red Dragon Archfiend or the Scar in order to bring out the original Red Dragon Archfiend. We'll then go into our Abyss, so again, you can see a lot of the same stuff here, as you're really going for the same boards, and it really just depends on what you have in hand in order to expand upon those boards. But we're going to get back our Vision, as we'll then be able to use the effect of the Bane in order to bring back the Red Dragon Archfiend. And again, if you want to get the Soul Resonator to have follow-up instead of Vision in order to go into your disc pattern, that's definitely an option that you have. I just want to show that this is available to you, as we're going to now activate the Crimson Gaia. Crimson Gaia will get us the red zone. We can then set the red zone, which is dead because we do have disc pattern on board. And I also would like to point out that Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane, it reads, you contribute one monster, then target one Red Dragon Archfiend monster in your graveyard. Unfortunately, this card does not specifically mention Red Dragon Archfiend, as it mentions a Red Dragon Archfiend monster, and is just a really dumb ruling overall in my opinion. And unfortunate that it works this way, because it just means that you can't get that pop when you have Red Zone plus Bane, so that is important to point out, and also why I reiterate what I said about Soul Resonator and keeping Red Dragon Archfiend on board instead of going into the disc pattern so that your red zone could be live. Now for the next combo here, we have Soul Resonator plus Bone Archfiend, and we're going to start this one by normal summoning the Soul. We'll be able to add ourselves the Vision, then we can use the effect of the Bone, sending off the Vision, as we'll then be able to use the effect of the Vision to get ourselves the Crimson Gaia, use the effect of the Bone in order to change the level of the Soul Resonator to 2, so that we can go into our Red Rising and revive the Crimson Archfiend or the Crimson Resonator that we sent off of the Bone Archfiend. So we'll now use the effect of the Crimson in order to bring out the Vision and the Synchron Resonator, as we'll then go into the Scar, go into our Bane, we'll then use the effect of Scar to bring out the Red Dragon Archfiend, go into the Hot Red, use the effect of the Synchron Resonator to get back the Vision, as we'll then use the effect of the Vision to bring itself out. We'll then use the effect of Bane in order to tribute off the Vision, as we'll then get back the Scar Red, and you can get back the original Red Dragon Archfiend, it doesn't matter, but we'll then be able to use the effect of the Crimson Gaia in order to get ourselves the red zone, and just like the previous boards that you've seen, we'll be able to end on pretty much the same thing. For this next combo, we'll be deviating a little bit, as you'll see we have the Bystial line available to us now, as we're going to activate the Crimson Gaia, use its effect in order to get ourselves the Soul Resonator, and this is another thing I would like to point out, again, plays into Droll heavily. There are weaknesses this deck has, like Nibiru, Droll, and other things things that the deck struggles to play around. That said, it has seen some major improvements considering what just one single Crimson Gaia does. As we're now going to use the effect of Bone Archfiend sending the Crimson, we can then go into our Red Rising, we can then use the Red Rising, revive the Crimson Resonator, as we'll then use the Crimson Resonator in order to special summon out the Vision and the Synchron. We can then go into the Scar, as we'll use the effect of the Vision in order to net ourselves the search for the Red Zone. We can then go into our Bane, as we'll then use the effect of the Scar in order to bring out the OG. We'll then go into the Abyss, use the effect of Synchron Resonator to get back the Vision Resonator, and this is important with the Bystial line. In some other hands where you don't have the Bystial line, you can just get back the Soul Resonator and end on follow-up, but with the Bystial line, you have the ability to use the Lubellion, get yourself a Bystial, we'll get the Magna Hut, as we'll now banish the Synchron Resonator. Another thing I would like to point out is that the level that you banish here depends what you're going to Synchro Summon on. So if you happen to banish a level 2, you're going to make a different monster than if you banish the Synchron Resonator. And now we're going to special summon out the Magna Hut, use its effect so that we can get that search in the end phase. We'll bring out Lubellion, and now we can use the effect of Lubellion in order to get ourselves the Etude of the Branded, as then we'll go into our Disc Patter. The Disc Patter will now give us the ability to bring back the Synchron Resonator, and now the cool thing here is that we can also use the effect of the Bane, tributing itself off, keeping the Resonator for the Etude, bring back the Red Dragon Archfiend or the Scar from the graveyard, and now on our opponent's turn, we have the Etude in order to quick synchro with the Hot Red along with the Synchron Resonator if you want to make a level 10. You can even make another copy of Abyss depending on what happens to this one with Etude, but with this, we'll end up setting the Red Zone and we can end our turn on that. I would also like to point out that because we have the Disc Patter, we also have the ability to floodgate our opponent by banishing any monster that would be sent to our opponent's graveyard as tributes for their ritual summon or as material for their synchro, fusion, or link summon. Now, we'll finally get onto the 3-card combos as we have Crimson Gaia, Resonator, Call, and Lubellion, so auto lose to Droll, as we'll be able to use the effect of the Crimson Gaia in order to add ourselves the Soul Resonator. We can then use the effect of the Resonator Call. We're just going to ignore Droll here because I want to show the most that we can do with this deck, as quite frankly, your play stops if you do get Drolled. So we're then going to special summon out the Crimson, normal summon the Soul. We'll use the effect of Soul in order to get ourselves the Bone. We'll then use the Bone effect in order to special summon itself out by sending the Gaia. Use the effect of Bone, changing the level of Soul, sending the Vision. We can now use the Vision in order to net ourselves the search for the Red Zone. Go into our Red Rising Dragon, use its effect in order to bring back the Vision. And this is just another cool interaction where if you happen to get the Vision Synchron in the graveyard and didn't have its effect that turn, you can just bring it back with the Red Rising as mentioned earlier and then be able to enable the search that way. But we're now going to use the Crimson Resonator in order to special summon out the Synchron Resonator and the Vision. Go into our Bane, use the effect of Scar to bring out the Red Dragon Archfiend, go into Abyss, as we'll use the effect of the Synchron Resonator to get back the Vision Resonator again because we have the Lubellion, which we'll use now to get the Magna Hut. We can then use the effect of Magna Hut, which I actually didn't mention on the last combo. You get the search in the end phase to add on to whatever board you make, which you're usually going to get Druis Worm, but we'll then use the Magna Hut here, as we'll then be able to use the effect or special summon out the Lubellion, and then we'll go into our Disc Patter, as we'll use the Disc Patter to bring back the Rising Dragon, and now we can special summon out the Vision Resonator, as this will give us the ability to go into our Void Ogre Dragon, and now we can use the effect of Bane in order to bring back Red Dragon Archfiend or Scar. Again, I'm using Scar for this video for the most part, but I do think that bringing out the original Red Dragon Archfiend could be better because it just plays around Dark Ruler in every way possible. Like, you can't get back row hated on in order to stop any of the ways that you have to counter Dark Ruler. For this next one, we have the Soul Resonator, Bone Archfiend, and Vision Resonator, and we're going to start this one by normal summoning the Soul. We can then use its effect in order to net ourselves a search for another copy of Vision, and we're doing this because we have the Bone Archfiend in order to pitch one, so now we have the ability to get the Graveyard effect while keeping one in hand in order to special summon it with its own effect. So we'll now get the Crimson Gaia off of the Vision Resonator, as we're going to use the Bone bone in order to change the level of the soul, sending the crimson. And now we can go into our red rising. Again, a lot of the same stuff that we've seen before, as we're going to use the crimson in order to bring out the soul and the synchron resonator. We can then go into our scar, as we'll use our scar and the synchron resonator to go into the abyss. We can then use the synchron in order to get back the soul resonator, as we're going to use the effect of scar in order to bring out the red dragon archfiend. Special summon out the vision, as we'll then go into our bane. Then we can use the bane, tributing off the soul resonator in order to get back whichever red dragon archfiend you want. And then we're going to use the effect of the crimson Gaia in order to get ourselves the red zone. And now we can set the red zone, ending ourselves with the 3 standard synchro monsters. The set red zone, we also have the crimson Gaia, and we have the follow-up via the soul resonator. We also do have protection in the graveyard with the soul resonator. Onto the test hands, and this one will be starting with resonator call plus the vision resonator, and I think that this is a combo I may not have gone through in our previous combos, so we're just going to get the soul resonator, normal summon it. We'll be able to get ourselves the bone archfiend, and now we can pitch the vision resonator for the bone archfiend, and this will be able to add us the crimson Gaia off of the vision resonator. And now we just have full combo, as you've pretty much seen throughout the video, as we're going to send the crimson Gaia, use the 2 monsters to go into our red rising, bring back the crimson. We can then use the crimson, as we'll then be able to bring out the synchron resonator and the vision resonator. We'll then be able to go into our scar, go into our bane. We'll then use the effect of scar to bring out the original red dragon archfiend, go into abyss, as we'll then use the effect of the synchron resonator to get back the vision resonator. And then we can special summon out the vision resonator, use the effect of the malicious bane, or the hot red dragon archfiend bane, in order to bring back the scar red. And then we're going to use the effect of the crimson Gaia in order to get ourselves into the red zone. And again, because we have Etude of the Branded, we actually are able to quick synchro on our opponent's turn. As you'll see momentarily, I didn't show it before, but I do want to take a chance to do that now, as we are going to just activate the red zone to activate it at any point you want to in the turn. We don't have an opponent, so I'm just showing that you want to do that before using your Etude, since the Etude will be getting rid of the red dragon archfiend, and this will allow you to go into either Baron, you can go into Dispatter, you can go into Chaos Angel, or anything like that. Final hand, before I get into the deck list, and you'll see that we have a more combo heavy hand this time around, as we're going to play well into Droll this time as well, as we're then going to add ourselves the Bone Archfiend. We can then use the Bone Archfiend in order to special summon itself out, pitching the resonator, as we'll use its effect in order to get ourselves the crimson Gaia, use the effect of the resonator, or the Bone Archfiend, in order to send the crimson, changing the level of the soul resonator, go into our red rising dragon, which will be able to bring back the crimson. Crimson can then use its effect in order to bring out the vision along with synchron resonator. We can then go into our scar, as we'll go into the bane. We'll then use the effect of the scar in order to bring out the red dragon archfiend, go into our abyss. We can then use the synchron resonator in order to bring back our vision, as we do have the Bystial Lubellion in hand. Use the effect of Lubellion in order to get ourselves a Magna Hut. Use the Magna Hut, banishing the crimson, as we get the effect of the Magna Hut so that we can get that add in the end phase. We'll special summon out the vision resonator. We'll then be able to bring out the Lubellion, as we'll use its effect in order to get the Etude. And as you see, Etude really makes these boards a lot stronger, as it makes your Dispatter just better and more optimal to go for, in my opinion, as we'll then use its effect in order to bring back the crimson resonator. And then we'll use the effect of the Bane, tributing itself so that we can get back the Scar or the original Red Dragon Archfiend, whichever you want to use, as we're then going to activate the Crimson Gaia so that we can get ourselves into the red zone. And now we'll be able to set the 2 cards along with activate the Resonator call, get ourselves the Soul Resonator for follow-up, and with this we make a pretty huge board off of this hand. But as you saw, it is very susceptible to hand traps, which is something you have to kind of deck build around heading into future formats. That said, for a starting point, this is something that you should definitely aim for. So with all of the combos out of the way, we can finally get onto the deck profile, and something that you can change around here that I want to point out immediately is the fact that you can play cross out if you are scared of Bystials and other potential hand traps that can just ruin your day. I do have the books at the moment because you want to be able to play around a Rise Heart and not having having the ability to do so can just flat out ruin this deck, because the Red Rising needs a monster in the graveyard for you to revive. Then you have stuff like Vision that triggers in the graveyard. So the format isn't exactly great for it right now, but I do think that a ban list can do wonders for this until we get Agov, which will then bring in a new set of problems but also support. And I would like to point out that when we get the Diabell stuff and stuff like that, the Snake Eyes, this is a fire monster. So there will be stuff like the Horus stuff that gets you into an extra body, level 8, and a draw that can also further improve this deck. Then there's stuff like the Bystial stuff that may get hit on our next list. And if that does happen, I will make another video regarding this deck. But I just want to have something for now that can give you guys the idea of how to play this deck, as it's something that I don't think will change too much outside of what you do with your sub-engines and going second cards. As you see, a lot of what we have here is our 2 Red Rising, we have the 2 Hot Red, the 2 Scar, the 2 Dispatter. There's just a lot of 2-ofs that comprise of about half your extra deck, and then you just have a bunch of 1-ofs that you really do want to play because of the role that they play in this deck. Just like the Void Ogre Dragon being an extra negate, you have the Chaos Angel Baron, which you can bring out of the Etude, the Hot Red, which is another play off of Etude depending on your hand. The only reason that you didn't see this in the combos is because it kind of does take a full hand in order to get this off, unless you happen to be playing other cards in the main deck that I just am not. Finally, I would also like to go over the last 2 new cards that we're getting. The Absolute Power Force is a quick play spell. It reads, target 1 Red Dragon Archfiend you control. If it battles an opponent's monster this turn while you control it, apply these effects until the end of the damage step. It gains 1000 attack. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects. If it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. Any battle damage your opponent takes from that battle is doubled. And then finally we have the Fiendish Golem, and this one reads, target 1 monster on the field with 2000 or more attack, banish it until the end phase of the next turn. Then if you activated this card while you controlled a Red Dragon Archfiend or a Synchro monster that mentions it, you can set 1 Fiendish Chain from your deck or graveyard. The cool thing about this specific card is that unlike Red Zone, you don't need to control a Red Dragon Archfiend in order to get the removal. But that said, it does require the monster to be 2000 or more attack. Now, in this particular format where Kashtira does exist, this is something that can be used to banish your opponent's Fenrir or their Unicorn if you want to stop them from their plays, which can make it a solid side deck option. But seeing as a lot of people are kind of falling off from the deck because they're just bored of it, don't like it, and things like that. They're playing Unchained and just a bunch of other stuff. Playing this in even the side deck can really be a judgment call that's up to you. I would also like to point out another weakness that this deck has is you saw the deck is pretty reliant on its normal summon, and if your opponent happens to interrupt you at the point where you're going to go into the Red Rising Dragon and you don't have an extender beyond that, then it can be really rough to play to boards, which is why I want to show stuff like Salamander Catalyzer, which you can reveal this card and a Fiend monster. You can maybe play 3 of this if you really want to go that approach so that you can just play through hand traps better. Then there's also the Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon, which does become level 7 upon its summon when you send the Red Eyes. That said, it's still a level 7, at that point, dragon monster that you can synchro summon with. And then there's stuff like Small World that you can play quick launch with the Rocket Tracer. This is something that really does take more space, so you would have to change the deck around quite a bit if you do want to play this. The reason I went with the Bystials and going second cards is because I feel it's more appropriate for the setting in modern era Yu-Gi-Oh! That said, I can totally understand if you want to bring in extenders into the deck. I also have the Wild Wind. This is another option that a lot of people like to play. I've seen this varying from 1 to 3. I just decided to cut it completely because for the video, I wanted to show how the main core of this deck works. That said, I don't know if I would even play it anyways, just because it doesn't really feel you need to, and if I wanted to add in an extender into this build, I would probably do it via one of the other options that we have presented to us here. And another thing I would like to talk about, of course, is the Muddy Mud Dragon. This is another play that you can make in order to go into Dragoon, give yourself an Omni-Negate, an untargetable boss monster that can just be a problem for your opponent. That said, it's something that does require a bit of resources in this particular deck. Until we get future support, I maybe wouldn't recommend it. With all of that out of the way, I want to get onto some of the main deck options. You'll see the 3 Crimson Gaia. The reason I'm playing the 3 Crimson Gaia, I've seen some people on 1, and this is just a 1-card combo. The fact that it combos so well with your Bone Archfiend and Resonator Call does not is the reason why I have it at 3. With Resonator Call, sure, you can get your Soul Archfiend. Your Soul Archfiend will get you into another search, but that search won't do anything unless you have the specific setup to do so. For example, an extra Fiend monster for the Salamander Catalyzer because you do search any level 4 or lower Fiend monster. In this particular build where we're just playing the Resonators, the Archfiend, and all the consistency stuff, you can see where it's kind of easy to get yourself trapped. Which is also why I think that the Crossouts could be a very solid option in this deck. Another card that I would like to talk about that I've seen get play is the Chain Resonator, and this card reads, when this card is normal summoned while a Synchro monster is on the field, you can special summon 1 Resonator monster from your deck except Chain Resonator, and this is something that I don't think that you need, just because it does eat up your normal summon. You want to be able to normal summon this instead most of the times, in my opinion. And there may be times where you have to normal summon the Bone Archfiend where you do have the Crimson Resonator, so that is important to note. Outside of that, I really don't have much else to say on the list, outside of the fact that you will want to play around with the ratios for Crimson Resonator and the Vision Resonator, depending on extenders that you choose to play. So with that, I'll just get onto the card by card, as we have the 3 Soul Resonator, the 3 Bone Archfiend, the 3 Crimson Gaia, the 3 Resonator Call, 3 Book of Moon, the 2 Book of Eclipse, the 1 Synchron Resonator, 2 Lubellion, 1 Saronir, 1 Druis Worm, the 2 Crimson Resonator, 2 Vision Resonator, the 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Magna Huts, the 1 Thrust, and the 2 Talents, the 3 Imperms, and then onto the extra deck we have the Hot Red, Chaos Angel, Baron, 2 Dispatter, Bane, 2 Abyss, 2 Scar, 1 Scarlight, the 1 Red Dragon Archfiend, 1 Void Ogre, and the 2 Red Rising Dragon to round out the extra deck. For everyone who's made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching and for the 600 plus subscribers. I truly appreciate your support, and now that we've monetized the channel, giving us access to supers and memberships means that more awesome stuff is on the horizon. To get the channel membership, just click on the description below, and there will be a link that takes you there. You'll also notice a free Discord link that I've made for us too. If you want to support me as a content creator, even if you can't donate supers or get a membership for the channel, clicking on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons help a lot too. For those wondering, I do plan on making updates to the channel as the support on the channel grows. Anyways, I hope to see you on the next one. It's Bones, signing out.